Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Guns of Navarone, RMP, Troy Shuka, Bose Nail, Justin Duso, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Marie Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to raise the mic on whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's Christmas Eve live show.
Was it sound card, you say?
Yeah, the sound card just stopped working, so I woke up, turned on the computer, and it was like, I normally change the sound settings to the desk and then restart the computer, just as a matter of course, every single time I start a show, and I went to change them and they weren't there. I was like, oh, that's a bit of a problem. So I took it to pieces, changed the card slot, and then I found it, but then it started distorting to all hell, so I'm like fiddling and faffing with various different software, and I just could not get it to work. So then I changed it back to the card that it wasn't found in, and it found it, and then I went through the process that I'd just gone through 5 times previous on the other slot, and it did actually work. So I think I've got either a faulty motherboard or a faulty sound card, one or the other. But not that that's extremely exciting for Christmas Eve, but it was very stressful just before I start the show, which isn't what you need. So I'm going to be a bit late. Any chance, do you think you can keep a conversation going amongst yourselves if I just click buttons without having to talk to you? Is that a possibility?
We probably would have done if you hadn't have asked.
Yeah, now we're all self-conscious and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, just, as long as you don't immediately ask me a question, I'm happy.
Right.
How's the weather, Nathan?
What are your plans today, Adam?
You what, mate?
What are your plans today, Adam?
Well, I've been at work this morning, so I had quite a nice morning, wishing everybody Merry Christmas as they're all rushing in, and that. So just got in now. Got a few prezzies to wrap for the kids. Gonna have a glass of sherry once I've got the other side of the debates, and then got brother-in-law coming down and just a nice family meal. Few little snifters of wine, I should imagine, maybe a whiskey or two this evening. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty much the same. We've got the whole family coming, the grandkids. So a full house for Christmas Eve. And then tomorrow, my wife's side of the family, about 30 people are coming for Christmas Day.
That sounds crazy.
It is, but it's fun. It's fun. The kids are always so excited at this time.
Oh, that's amazing. Got to have the space for 30 people. Imagine you've got acreage, haven't you? So,
well, I converted one of the greenhouses into like a party tent. So we got lights, tables, everything.
Amazing.
Propane heaters, the whole
thing. We're going to need a picture of that in Bullbuster somewhere, aren't we? So,
I will take pictures of it and post it.
That'd be lovely to see, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're doing Hawaiian theme this year for Christmas. Pulled pork and all kinds of pineapple dishes, I think.
Oh, my wife would hate that, but I love pineapple on stuff. When I go to Italy, we go to the pizzeria. And the first time I went, and they're lovely people, we go there all the time. I said, can I have ham, pineapple and mushroom? And she's like, "You dirty English bastards." She is. So we don't do it. So every time now, I always go to the supermarket before, I buy a tin of pineapple and just take it in. And she gives me away. I just give her the tin as I go in. And then they kindly put it on the pizza for me.
Oh, nice. That's great. Oh, man.
I'm not allowed to tell anyone, she says.
Yeah, everybody brings something in special.
Funny. What are your plans then, Arwin?
Me, what I do every year. So second Christmas Day, I'm going to my dad's, and just to, me, my dad, and my stepmother have a nice dinner, and that's it. Relatively modest, nothing too Christmassy.
You doing a show tomorrow?
Yeah.
Will it show then over to your dad's for dinner? Or are you doing it live from your dad's?
Tomorrow, no, second Christmas Day, right? So Saturday?
Okay. Oh, Boxing Day. Sorry, yeah.
It's not Christmas Day today, right? It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Right, so second day. Tomorrow I'm just gonna do my show as normal.
And then Saturday you go in.
Yeah.
Boxing Day. What do you call it then? Second Christmas Day?
Yeah. That's what we call it over here. Tweede kerstdag.
Say that again.
Tweede kerstdag.
And that means second Christmas Day?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, it's the Feast of St. Stephen, isn't it? Officially.
What? What's that?
10th, help. 26th. Isn't it the Feast of St. Stephen's initially?
What? Never heard of that.
No, I'm not aware of that, Adam.
So, yeah, Christmas Day was always Christmas Day. And you never gave presents on Christmas Day. Traditionally, it'd be Boxing Day, as it's now called, because on the Feast of St. Stephen's, people would then give a present, give a small box to each other. It became known as Boxing Day. That's when presents began. And then it's then transferred to Christmas Day. So,
Okay.
certainly from an English Victorian history, I think that's my... I'll have to look it up now. Oh, St. Stephen's.
That's like the first time I've ever heard of that. It's really curious.
Yeah, in our culture, Christmas Eve is our Christmas Day, and then coming to America, everyone did it on Christmas Day, and that helped because my family would see all of us on Christmas Eve, and then on Christmas Day we go to my wife's family, so there was never a scheduling problem.
Yeah, St. Stephen's Day, also called Boxing Day.
So is that like Catholic since it's saint?
Commemorates the life of St. Stephen, a Christian deacon in Jerusalem. He was known for his service to the poor. His status as the first Christian martyr. He was stoned to death in AD 36. There you go. I thought it was, Christian saint.
Yeah, that would be Catholic, I'm certain.
Right. Okay. What a convoluted mess it has become over the ages.
It's odd, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Been commercialized for sure.
It's the Coca-Cola holiday.
They put, instead of Christmas, they put Xmas. They don't even want to say it.
I remember that. I used to think at Sunday school, but they've picked a cross. There's an X is still a cross, so it has a Christian point to me. It's not like they put a smiley face or winter festivalness. You know what I mean? I remember having that pointed out. They're crossing out Christ. Is the phrase I remember from Sunday school on that.
Well, they don't say Crossmas, they say Xmas. And it has to do with his birth, not his death, burial, resurrection. So it should be just Christ.
Hey, how come I can't get it on meat?
Hey, Neil.
Hi, Neil.
What's
Hello.
going on?
Nothing's going
What
on.
are you
Nathan's
blocking
sound card.
me?
I just had a sound
Nathan's
card
got some
issue again.
technical issues.
Had a sound card issue. Can you hear me in Discord?
I'm in Discord, so I hear you well.
Fine. So everything's working.
No, because I want to get in meat and I can't. They're making me sign in.
I mean, everything's working with the show.
The show don't roll without me. Oh, I mean you.
I think
Which is
that's
true.
what we were waiting for, Neil. You
We
to
tried
come.
it without you, and it didn't work.
Okay.
Nathan was adamant earlier, Neil. He says, I'm not doing a Christmas show until Neil turns up.
I was just telling my
That's
wife, I
right.
said, Nathan said he's not doing a Christmas show, but it's only Christmas Eve.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Arwin, the Adam Meakin, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hello, hello. Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. It's not actually Christmas yet. It might be if you're watching this after the fact, but it's not now. It's Christmas Eve for anyone watching live. So hello to everyone in the members only chat. Hello to everyone in G+. And hello to the few people that actually are in Discord. I said a whole bunch of people, but there's about 4. So hello to all of you in Discord. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas, Nathan.
Merry
It's really
Christmas,
good.
Jared.
Oh, at least Ryan replied. Thank you very much. Good to have you all.
Christmas to all.
Grinchy in Discord, innit, that?
It's okay. It's fairly standard fare for Discord, right? Even on Christmas.
Thought he might have got a ho though today, but maybe not.
We'll see. There's still time. We've only just started, so we'll see how we go. Let's do a bit of Christmas housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical, geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Formerly known is best way of looking at it. It's not there.
Formerly known but never claimed to be. Right?
That's right. We never claimed. Now it's a story.
Oh, you're referring to Tim Osman, right?
Physical sphere edge horizon. We never knew the.
Yeah,
But-
it was nice knowing you.
But we mark it with an X.
We'll remember you next time we send up a balloon or refer to a picture with Earth curve mathematics, where it'll need to be physical again. And hopefully we know flat Earthers around when that happens.
Indeed.
They-
Well, it was there. It was there until we challenged it.
dangerously
No,
close to the
It
Black
was
Swan.
never there. It was just thought to be there.
Well, it's like, I was just
in
going to
our
say, it's the
minds is where it was, and even our minds. Even when we were arguing Isle of Man, it was still in our minds. It wasn't until
Precisely.
it's later that you start to explore a question, look at it, and then I think the Black Swan is the greatest exponent of describing and proving to people that it is just a reification that we all initially fall into. Even though we know what the horizon is, we still, for whatever reason, whether there was a niggle there in the back of your mind or not, but certainly, I hold mine up. That's what we were taught.
And that's what they're still taught. They're told if you come and argue with a flat earther, it all starts with the horizon, because they reify it into an earth curve edge that blocks things. Unfortunately, the Black Swan, it's very, very close to its anniversary, because it was 1st of Jan 2020 that it was actually released, to the public at least. And it's obviously very close to that now, so hopefully a week on Saturday we'll do a Ballbusters. I've negotiated him moving the forward time by an hour rather than 2. Hopefully he's agreeable. We'll see. I haven't actually read my responses yet. Anyway, Black Swan, baby.
Yeah, so it can't be seen, can't be measured, but it's there in people's minds.
And the math.
Oh, it's always going to be in the maths. It only exists in the maths. But it was, as Adam's pointing out, while we were debating the Isle of Man, we're still arguing about how much should or shouldn't be seen of the buildings that are obscured by the physical Earth curve edge horizon. Well, we were, back then, falling for their trick, which is to say, let's all reify the Earth's a sphere, because this calculator says Earth curve maths at the top of it. So straight away we were losing. But then what were we arguing about? How much should or shouldn't be seen behind a physical horizon Earth curve edge when the horizon's not a physical location? The Black Swans debunked that. So we no longer we will never be in the position to reify the horizon into an Earth curve edge again. Some of the people who have come across the Black Swan argument understand it, but then immediately reify it again when there's no one looking, hoping that we won't point out that you haven't got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon anymore. Earth curve believers. Black Swan killed it.
Nathan, when this first happened, I had a summary of it similar to what you're doing now. And my summary was we were arguing the effects of perspective to that, the viewpoint that we have with our eyes. And until the Black Swan came in, obviously it went to the geometric horizon, the physical that's not there. So to be fair on the flat earthers, I thought we were always saying, look, yeah, the bottom is missing due to angular resolution and the deck and perspective. We weren't even considering what now the Black Swan gives us.
Yeah, it gives us an Arwinian paradox when they come back and say, well, it's just a refracted horizon. It's like, well, what non-physical, non-capable of blocking boats and buildings, not capable of deriving an R value when you measure it, with a assumption that it's a tangent point that you can draw a straight line to? What's that you say? Bendy line to it, non-physical location. Welcome to Flat Earth.
So we won the perspective argument and we win the geometric horizon argument that doesn't exist physically. So we got 2 out of that one.
As we're on the subject, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
At best, we debunked it.
Back to the Black Swan, eh? Straight soon.
Well, that's the crux of it, isn't it? It is the Al-Biruni's deadly assassin, the Black Swan. And again, historically, it's something they would pull out, use, and give a citation for an R value that, again, it's not stuff we didn't understand and didn't challenge, but the Black Swan makes it so easy.
For anybody who's not aware of the Black Swan argument, I might as well give it a quick recite right now. So, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That would be the geometric horizon. And the Black Swan, which we are referring to, demonstrates the horizon way beyond its geometric limitations at 1.2 miles, given that image is taken at 1 foot. It's at 10 miles, massively further than any geometric capabilities could ever provide if you were on a sphere. Ergo, we are told, well, we don't see a geometric horizon. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. We wouldn't expect to see a geometric horizon, even though they're actually simultaneously claiming that it blocks boats and buildings and they can measure it very accurately with feet and inches that don't change with distance, because they've hijacked perspective and called it Earth curve.
Right.
Well, Nathan,
Tons of
aren't
bees.
they for? Look on.
Go, Neil, go.
Otherwise, I'm going to go forth and say that even when they say you don't actually see the geometric horizon, is still based on their mythical assumption that there's such a thing as terrestrial refraction, which can actually displace the horizon.
And
That's
the problem with,
part of that train of thought.
problem with their terrestrial refraction, otherwise known as standard refraction, is that it uses R. And R is derived from the geometric horizon being a physical tangent point with a straight line to it. So they're saying, so we can bend the line to the horizon to call it refracted with terrestrial refraction. We'll use terrestrial refraction 7/6 R. And where'd you get R? Well, from a physical horizon that you can draw a straight line to. Well, we need that straight line so we can make it bent. Well, if it's bent, it's not straight and you can't get a tangent. So it's a paradox.
Oh, I love those discussions.
Well, they're kind of forced, or they got their backs against the wall, because the minute they decided they were going to convert the plane we live on into a sphere and assign a radius value to it, and then say we got it from sticks and shadows or other means, Alberuni, etc., then they're now confined by those numbers. And then when you test those numbers, like the Black Swan does, it doesn't show up. So they're forced to make a radius, have a radius, describe a radius, have numbers for a radius, but never vets out in reality.
That's its other beauty, isn't it? I am a geek, and I'll go back to the Isle of Man stuff when we sat there wading through just the nonsense, the mathematical nonsense that they'd come up with and used to justify a particular image. And so this is the beauty of the Black Swan. It does use maths, but it's not us trying to prove a flat Earth with the maths. It's us taking their maths that they hold so dearly, that's so fundamental to their religion, and using it just against them, demonstrating its complete opposition to anything we observe in reality. And that's the beauty of it. It takes their strength and turns it on them. Because the only way to attack it is to, what's his name? Daft Lad said, oh, at best you've disproved the R value, which we're happy to accept as a concession in my book, if that's your response.
Yeah, you're going to be needing that to move the horizon with R. If we've debunked it, you haven't got terrestrial refraction to claim it's a refracted horizon, non-physical, non-capable of blocking boats and buildings. It just goes round and round in a paradox. Speaking of round and round, any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not from Nottingham.
No way.
Oh, we wouldn't expect to see the rotation.
Well, they tell us that we would. They say we've got a Coriolis effect. That's us rotating underneath things that aren't attached to Earth as it spins, so that they appear to drift away from you at 15 degrees an hour as you rotate underneath stuff. It's called Coriolis effect. They say we'd see it, we just don't. There is no Coriolis deflection. Nothing's drifting away from us at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator as we turn underneath it. It's absurd. We'd notice.
Well, they do kind of say that only a very few things are actually subjected to it, that most things basically aren't. That's what it comes down to. It's like they've never been able to just outright say, no, nothing, like the Coriolis effect is a mistake. There is nothing actually displacing. It's just all as is in lockstep. And then the Neil deGrasse Tysons keep on bringing in up the football that's supposed to deviate and then mess that whole stability up. It's so crazy how it all works.
Right on. Anyone else got anything else to say on Coriolis deviation or axial rotation proof, the lack thereof? Any more for any more?
Yeah, it's already they've made claims, and then when asked for proof, they can't demonstrate or show these claims.
I was making a little list throughout the year. I was just
Were you checking it twice?
yeah. You got me. I didn't. I've got Coriolis and non-Coriolis. So things that are subject to Coriolis are footballs, pendulums, gyroscopes, and bullets. Things that are not subject to Coriolis: aeroplanes, drones, helicopters, and balloons.
That's not true. According to that citation that QE uses, it describes the deflection of planes and helicopters in his citation. Can't remember where it's from.
This is a ball for ballers.
Trench level lists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's obviously not real.
But that doesn't make sense either, because at trench level they'd deny, to the point where they'd say that Neil deGrasse Tyson is wrong, that Earth rotates underneath his example where a football deflects because Earth's rotating underneath it. They'd deny that. In other words, that list still doesn't make sense, because many of the things you say, I don't know, do they deny bullets? That's probably the only one I could give a firm okay on, because I'm yet to hear anyone deny that Earth is claimed to rotate underneath bullets so that they deflect and you have to account for it. That's their claim, right? Coriolis effect, Earth rotating underneath the bullet. Of course, that would shorten flight times when travelling west. Charlotte to LA would only take an hour and a half instead of 4.5 hours if Earth was rotating underneath it, like it's supposed to rotate under bullets. But unless you can think of somebody that's denied that.
Well, that's why you have to believe that aeroplanes aren't subject to it, because they're aeroplanes. That's the reason. They're not bullets, they're aeroplanes. And then in the religious list, these things do this and these things do that. There's no reason for it. You just have to accept it as a fundamental of the heliocentric religion.
Not really. I mean, the things that should deflect within Coriolis deviation are things that aren't attached to a non-inertial spinning reference frame. So if you're on a roundabout, and one of the things that takes off the roundabout, let's say it's enormous, mile-wide roundabout that's spinning, yeah? Well, things that take off that roundabout, it doesn't matter if it's a drone, or a helicopter, or an aeroplane, or a sniper's bullet, or a football. All of them will appear to move as you rotate underneath them if they're not attached to the roundabout. In other words, none of them are really doing anything in actual terms. In other words, you could just chuck all of them off out of a box. You know, you got all that list of things and you just chuck them off the roundabout in a box. But from the roundabout, as you're rotating underneath that box full of items I just listed, the box would seem to take a curved trajectory because you're rotating underneath it. That is, by definition, what Coriolis effect is. So it's not like, well, a plane takes off and we don't rotate underneath it to see a not actual deflection because I'm rotating underneath it. That makes no sense at all. It either deflects because you're rotating underneath it, therefore Earth has Coriolis effect, or it doesn't, and we don't have Coriolis effect, as they claim to prove we spin. The reality is we don't see anything deviating. You don't launch a drone and it doesn't whiz away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator because you're rotating underneath it. We're not.
Well, you remember the weak argument we got from the trench level ballers? Well, that's powered flight.
That's what?
Powered flight.
Makes no difference. You're observing not actual deflection. So regardless if the ball has been thrown or an aeroplane's travelling in a straight line, the deflection described by Coriolis effect is you rotating underneath it, having it seem to take a curved path. Not because it's actually curving, but because you're rotating underneath it. Well, the fact that the plane has got a powered engine attached to the wings makes absolutely no difference to whether or not you from the ground are rotating underneath it. In fact, quite the contrary. The whole point of Coriolis effect is the thing in the inertial reference frame, in this example a plane with engines, doesn't deflect. It just travels in a straight line. It's a not actual deflection. You're observing it from the ground merely because you're rotating underneath it. So on a roundabout, a plane goes over you, and you can observe that that plane seems to be curving. Oh, what do you know? It's just because you're on a roundabout and you're turning underneath the plane. Does the plane have to worry about you on the roundabout looking at it seeming to move in a way it isn't? No. Does it matter that the plane has got engines when you watch it seem to spin around because you're on a roundabout underneath it? No. It's you observing it seem to do something it isn't. And according to the globe Earth claim, we're supposed to be turning underneath things not attached to a globe that spins. So Neil deGrasse Tyson says, well, it went through the goal because Earth turned underneath. That's Coriolis deflection that he's describing. Like me observing the plane in the sky as I'm on a roundabout. He's claiming Earth's the roundabout and the ball is the plane. We see it seem to drift through the goal because the goal moved under it. It's just it would have to move under the plane and under the helicopter and under the drone too. And it doesn't. Debunking the notion that we have Earth turn.
Yeah, after you thoroughly debunk that, then they say, well, we have infinite reference frames.
That makes no difference. You only need 2 to describe Coriolis effect and not actual drift as you turn underneath stuff. They need Earth to be turning underneath stuff, and it isn't. End of argument.
I thought Nathan's reference frames were ruined.
That's Simon Dan. He told me and my reference frames, referring to me. I'm doing it in the third person, let's just quote him. You and your reference frames are ruined, says Simon Dan, not appreciating that we don't need them. He claims Earth spinning underneath stuff and exhibiting Coriolis with 2 reference frames that he's telling me are debunked, just demonstrating his stupidity. And when it comes to his own argument, he doesn't understand his own argument because it requires 2 reference frames, he says, are debunked. What a clown. Simon Dan, we salute you for your stupidity. Happy Christmas, mate. You're thick.
Yeah.
Right? Nathan, we should thank all the ballers for all the terrific hashtags they've given us.
Well, thank them. It does seem like that. We get so little back from them when we debate them and they don't concede, that it should seem like we should thank them when they actually say something that's true. Like, your reference frames are ruined. Yeah, they are, Dan. Your reference frames that you need.
Thank you, Tim Osmond, for clarifying that no one claims the horizon is Earth curve.
Indeed. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. Welcome to flat Earth. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence
My
for the
tape measure doesn't go
distance
that
to the
far.
sun.
What doesn't go that far?
My tape measure.
Yeah, it's a bummer, eh?
I just don't know how else to measure it.
Me neither. And when you say it, what's it?
Hell if I know. A light?
Yeah, some intangible light. What is it? How am I going to run my tape measure to it? It moves every time I get nearer to it. So I never get nearer to it. How am I supposed to measure it? I take that as a no.
And the angular size doesn't change either.
Yeah, it does. I've seen plenty of videos that show the angular, that's not actual size change. But even if you were to take the flat earthers argument as read, right, okay, I can show you a demonstration of the not actual size of the sun receding in angular size as it approaches the horizon. All right, so it's not actual size changes, eh? That's nice. What's that proving?
That's not specifically what I meant. Like, in its path, okay, there might be angular size change, apparently. I was talking about when you actually go out and attempt to put a ruler or a tape measure towards it. As you are doing that and you think you're approaching it, it's not going to change angular size, which it should if it is actually an object in somewhere in a Euclidean location.
I see what you mean. If it's a tangible object, as you approach it, it should get bigger. As you get further away from it, it should get smaller. But none of the above are true. However, you can still see the not actual size of the sun recede into the distance. Does it make any sense? No. That's often the case with intangible objects. The sun is a very wondrous thing. Likewise, the moon, we discussed on yesterday's show, and put it out there for anybody who's interested. Get us a moon setting. Get us a moon set on the horizon. Now, specifically, a daytime moon. Because I can't remember who it was that came on that was highlighting this and saying, where's the moon? You have it up in the day, it looks really pretty, and then it disappears. And I was like, I showed my daughter, or attempted to show my daughter the moon yesterday. And I'm like, where's the moon? It's gone. In the time it took me to get her attention to show how pretty it looked. But there we go. So that's just an interesting folly for us to amuse ourselves with, given there's so little challenge from the globe side. If you can get yourself a P900 or a decent camera and film a moon setting, that'd be marvellous. A daytime moon setting, I should say.
I appreciate you bringing that back up, because that was me, and I've made that observation several times over the last month.
Awesome. So yeah, Mr. Palmer.
Is that you, Eli?
Yeah, distance to the sun, distance to the moon. Don't seem to have anything. We don't know what it is. We're more than happy to declare our ignorance in this regard. But it's very fascinating. We'd love to know more. Any evidence?
And that's what makes us honest. The fact that we'll say, we don't know.
I got a lot of stick from that when I did that Vice interview. They're like, "What? I don't know what the moon is." I can't remember what the question they asked is, or something about the sun or moon. I'm like, I don't know what it is. And then people are like, he says he doesn't know. It's like, oh yeah, you want to fall into that trap when you come here? You'll be telling me about 93 million mile distances based on Venus being the same size as Earth, which is assumed to be a sphere with a radius value derived from a geometric horizon that apparently we can't see or can't measure and only exists in maths. That's where we go to in terms of the complexity of reasoning behind why I say I don't know what it is. Well, the bottom line is because I don't. And neither do you, if you're honest with yourself. You think you know what it is if you're a heliocentrist, based on a lot of assumptions. But beyond that, what is it? I don't know. Neither do you. Isn't that exciting? Or terrifying, depending on who you are? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
Go on then. Or P and S waves, isn't it?
Nope.
No, I'm not doing it.
Theoretically, PNS waves could yield the right results, but as they are currently developed, they're not effective.
I think you'll find, Owen, if I assume I'm on a ball and interpret them like that, I can use them to justify something that I can then check later and find out I was completely wrong.
Indeed.
Just for summary's sake, P waves and S waves, Koala Deep's borehole is measured with predictions of what they're going to drill through. They get it wrong. So even when they're drilling down 12k, they still can't guess right in terms of what's beneath them. They're drilling through materials they weren't expecting to. So, yeah, with your assumption of what shape the Earth is and then what your result is when you blast P waves and S waves and read the results, even though they don't actually predict things correctly, I can then say Earth's a sphere with this formal logical fallacy affirming the consequent. If Earth a sphere, then my P waves, S waves, therefore Earth a sphere. Yeah, useless really. But I don't know, the P waves, S waves argument is a bit tedious. Doesn't get a lot of time here, does it? I mean, people bring it up like you have, Adam, just so that people know that people will throw that back if you say there's a molten iron core discrepancy or the Curie point's been breached, etc., etc.
I think even the ballers realise how weak it is. There's very little there. It's an assumption based on an assumption that, like as I said, then when tested, made a mockery of of the pseudoscience that it was, in terms of its only demonstrable, point that it could show anything. He didn't just get it a little bit out. It was catastrophically incorrect, wasn't it? In terms of there was more water there was more this, that, or the other. The porosity was wrong.
So what you're saying, Adam, is that when they went only 8 miles down, when they did the borehole, they got everything wrong.
Yeah, even within such a short sample size, which you think they would have a decent idea about, over 8 miles, to then try and imply that this data, which is shown to be incorrect when sampled, catastrophically incorrect, to try and then pretend that you can extrapolate that data out to tell you what's over the next 3,500 plus mile is extreme pseudoscience, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if you can't get the first 8 miles, how are you going to get the next 3,551?
Yeah. Especially considering that you think that, that's then all that data you get, you then plot into a ball to then try and interpret it as well. So it's...
What I do like is the backstory. So the origin story to the molten iron core. Are you all familiar with the origin story?
The glancing blow.
You've got it. So a long time ago, in a galaxy only existing in the minds of fundamentalist zealots, there was a planet called Theia, and it was on a collisional course by way of its very near orbit to a dwarf planet called Earth. And then by pure chance, when their orbital paths, only existing in this fantasy called heliocentrism, interjected or collided with each other. But Theia, this planet, smashed into the dwarf Earth planet at a glancing blow, right, 10th man? And that was fortunate enough to only deposit its molten iron core into this dwarf planet. Now, obviously, there was a lot of debris that flew off, And fortunately, because of Einsteinian gravitational accretion, that coalesced into the moon. That's why, when they find that things that are claimed to be from the moon turn out to be petrified wood, that's why it's the same material down on here, and we've got petrified wood. Because that petrified wood obviously was there when Theia smashed into it and coalesced into the moon that we know now. And that is the story of how the moon came to be and why we have an oversized molten iron core, because Theia deposited its molten iron core into our molten iron core, which is why it's not cooled down already. And that is true because they made it up themselves.
Uncle
Hey, that
Nathan,
last
one
part
more
was
story.
mine. You actually interjected my petrified wood story in there. I love it.
Uncle
And
Nathan,
And that's a
one
great
more
point.
bedtime
Even
story,
with
please. One
meteors,
more.
they'll tell you that it's iron or some Earth native element, coincidentally.
Exactly. I say it's adamantium.
They'll always use like an Earth native element that we recognize. Like, oh, that meteor had titanium. It's like, wow, so titanium across the universe?
Yeah, they're just hiding the unobtainium that's obviously beneath us.
Right? Like, they couldn't even come up with like a made up one? Trinanium or something?
I don't know. There's plenty of Chinesium.
Exactly. You would think if it's coming from across the universe, it could be anything else that's not found on Earth.
It's
like,
mithril.
you just keep rattling them off every time you say it,
deep.
like kryptonite.
Right?
It's mithril. They dug too deep. Then the Balrog came.
Man, this is the most attention the molten iron core's had in a while.
And just play Dwarf Fortress and you'll understand everything. Once you figure out how to play that game, which might take a while, but
As we're on the subject, there's a reason why I ask for evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. And why would it need to be self-perpetuating, pray tell? Anybody aware of why I ask if I could say it specifically for a self-perpetuating molten iron core in the evidence?
Is that to do with the fact that you can get liquid lithium, but even then they have to induce it to hold the charge?
Exactly. So to generate the charge beyond the Curie point, it'd have to have motion that it's generating itself, i.e. self-perpetuating.
Yeah. And they've managed to get, like I say, a liquid metal to do it, but only with lithium, and even then it wasn't self-perpetuating, it had to be done. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, but they need a self-perpetuating molten iron core, as that's what they claim it is, right? Regardless of why it would need to be self-perpetuating, or whether or not it can self-perpetuate, that's what they need.
But why does it even need to be iron?
Because that's what they say it is.
You can't even do it by inducement either. Iron won't hold it when it's in its molten state. That's the point I made. With lithium, for some reason, it will still hold the field if they induce it into it when it's a liquid. But when they try it with iron, it still won't hold the field. Never mind self-perpetuate it, but it still won't even hold the field.
Yeah, but that's where you...
Why would it be iron? And if there was actually the entire core, which is basically the filled-in balloon of the Earth, right? If that is all iron, then why isn't like the surface of the Earth basically 70% iron? You know?
Because when they made this all up themselves those years ago, the first and most obvious thing for magnets was iron. So they thought, a big bit of iron in the middle of it. Perfect. Problem solved.
Or maybe you're just making the same point as Mr. Palmer, which is why not adamantium or kryptonium or whatever made up material? You know, why iron? Well, as Adam says, just basic, simple, it's magnetic, right? And then when you figure out Curie points, you go, well, why change the rhetoric? It'll only confuse people.
Immense pressure.
What if it was liquid oxygen?
Oh, here we
Under
go.
pressure.
Arwin the
Because it is
heliocentric
metallic.
scriptwriter.
Sorry?
I said, here we go. Arwin the heliocentric scriptwriter is coming up with better ideas, because obviously, yes, a lot of the heliocentric nonsense is lame, and Arwin often does do better. So he's saying, right, let's put pen to paper. What could it be? Let's come up with some better nonsense. Quick trap, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
On the
because
wrong
I heard
side of the
that
periodic
oxygen
table.
is metallic. So
It's not. It's just on the wrong side. Metals are the other side. And then you got transition metals and then non-metals on the other side.
Oh, hang on. You're being challenged by actual understanding of heliocentric nonsense now. What are you going to do now?
No, this is a chemist's knowledge. I just got it wrong. I thought that it was kind of like a metallic.
No, your group 1 and group 2s. So your lithium, your sodiums in ones, and then your magnesiums and the lights are on those first 2 columns, aren't they? And they're metals. Then you got your other metals and your transition metals in the middle bit, and then the other groups, they're your noble gases, your halogens and stuff like that, aren't they? And then oxygen, but they're not. I won't put those in the metals class. They sit on the other side.
Do a couple of quick shout outs. So shout out to Julio Pabon. He says they are wrong. It's not self-perpetuating. It's a 9-volt battery down there. Interesting comment, actually, Julio Pabon. I was watching a series. I kind of like this channel, so I might as well plug them. I think it's called Matrix Explained, and he basically just covers Matrix. Right in my street. I love that movie. Anyway, he's saying that the Wachowski brothers, now Wachowski sisters, originally intended the people in the Matrix not to be a battery. That was something changed by one of the executive producers because they said that the people wouldn't get it. That story's going to take a little while, so bear with me. The original idea was that the power, if you will, that was claimed in the movie was actually processing power, i.e. the ability to use the people's minds to power the programs that are running the Matrix. That was the original intent based on simulacra and simulation, and then transposed into the movie by the Wachowski brothers, now Wachowski sisters. Anywho, I thought it was interesting, and this is my point, because when I first watched that movie, I watched it in the movie theatres with a packed audience, every seat filled, and when Neo holds up the battery, the Duracell, and says to turn a human being into this, and holds up the battery, every person in the audience laughed. As a British audience, we just laughed because we thought it was absurd, basically. It's so stupid. So we all laughed. We all burst out laughing. Now, bearing in mind that an executive producer says people won't get that, well, his alternative idea that we're Duracell batteries, like you're suggesting the Molten Iron Core's a 9-volt battery down there, is equally absurd. But, you know, a minor detail that would have been a lot better if the Matrix actually had people's processing power utilised, not their biochemical power. But anyway. Also, shout out to Pilton Pop. He says, have a good Christmas to all the gang. Nathan, Anthony, Arwin, 10th, Man, Chocolate, Neil, and everyone on the side of truth. Have fun, guys. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really do appreciate your support. Any more on the Molten Iron Core?
I didn't know that about the Matrix. I'd almost say, like, they might actually consider to change that back at some point, because it's basically just one scene in which that is expressed. So they could potentially even change that back to the original idea. Insert another, the original explanation, because that is so much better. Like, I never heard that before.
Exactly.
That's like,
I'm sorry.
yeah, the people are the calculator for the Matrix itself.
Exactly.
They make the Matrix. That's brilliant.
Yeah, mine's better.
Good morning.
People,
Good morning.
Doesn't it? At the end, you're going to have to keep people plugged into the Matrix to allow the final piece, the final settlement. Whereas when it was just sharing of energy because of this, you know, they scorched the skies to take the energy, so that people replaced it, you could function an alternative energy source. But if you're postulating it as actual processing power to allow the computers to live and function, in the Matrix, then the consequence is some people have got to stay in the Matrix, haven't they, to operate it?
Yeah, and that philosophy
they would
was
have much more incentive.
sorry, so I'm just going to get this bit out as well. Sorry, Owen. That philosophy is it's explained in the second Matrix by one of the very oldest members of Zion, that old dude that goes down to the engineering level, and he explains that exact symbiosis. So he's saying to Neo, look at all these machines. Now, on the whole, people don't care why they work, but moreover, just that they work. But we are dependent on these machines, and the machines are dependent on us. Now, that's really far more effective, or far more true, if it's not just a power source, right? If they need us for the processing power, then it's far more effective. But as soon as you say, well, we're just a battery, it's like, I'm sure they could fashion a better power source. We're not even that efficient. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
That
true.
was-
Just go back
I'm
to
only
old
trying to
school.
interrupt because I'm trying to jump. I think I heard, like, it. Did someone say that this was an original theory from, like, an original idea that they didn't put in the movie?
Yeah. So it's just part of simulacra
Where
and simulation.
does the original idea come from? Because I always talk about how the entire screenplay was stolen from someone no one knows about.
Well,
That's the only reason
Well,
that
the entire
I'm
thing
like
is
It was.
piping up.
No,
what
it
you've
was
got
based
is
on the
you've got
13th floor.
oh god, it's simulacra
Originally.
and simulation. That's all of it. But often what they take is characters and give them philosophical archetypes and make them into philosophical archetypes. So they represent certain things. Like for us, the most pertinent is probably the Merovingian. What does he represent? Well, cause and effect. That's what he represents. Right? You've got the Oracle, representative of choice. You've got various other character archetypes. You know, that's just how they've woven in philosophy into each of the storylines by giving it a specific character. So it's their trait. Well, the overriding plot and the overriding ideas, they're used many times over in manga. But, you know, you just got to look at Ghosts in the Shell, which is basically the same thing. But the ideas have all come from simulacra and simulation. Well, that killed the conversation. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, the philosophers of our worldview in heliocentric terms?
Never.
Nope.
And I mean never.
Okay, what about scientific evidence for gravity?
What's gravity?
Which one?
Never.
No, say it right. We don't know. Next question.
Neil deGrasse. Well, things do go down
And up.
and up.
The only thing we can say about gravity is anytime the argument's presented, it always falls on its face.
Boom, boom.
Haha.
So are you telling me that my finances are because of gravity? Up and down?
No, your finances are caused by electrostatic forces. Everything's got electrostatic forces. Didn't you know that? It's not a non sequitur to do with your bank account. Just makes me sound smart, though, eh?
What?
Just
It's that
utilising a non
universal down
sequitur.
card.
It doesn't matter. In joke,
Right,
my
Nathan?
bad.
Nathan, it's that universal down MasterCard.
You've got it, exactly.
This downward bigotry has got to end, guys.
I think we should hold a few less prejudices. So I've seen some of the reaction videos to the discussion with Whitsitt and Nathan Thompson, and some of the reaction videos, just no need. You know, just because somebody's holding on to what is the most carefully constructed philosophical programming mankind has been subjected to in our history at the very least. Well, you can't really hold it too much against people when they're still holding on to one aspect of it because of whatever logical consistency they see in it, or misunderstanding in terms of there always being a down because things seem to always go down. Well, seem to doesn't mean always, especially when they don't. But that's not something you can hold against them or suddenly label them as shills or misinformation agents. It's like, lest we forget that at some point we'll have been on our own journey going, is that actually right or wrong? I don't really know. And then you might get it wrong and preach it. Well, so what? People make mistakes. It doesn't make them shills. None of the people involved in this are shills as far as I'm concerned, just because they hold a strong belief about something that is demonstrably untrue. Does that mean we need to ridicule them? Yeah, I'll give them a hard time here. That's my show. You know, step into the arena. That's what you expect if you're holding on to a fundamentalist belief. Doesn't matter who you are. But does that mean that they suddenly need ridiculing and demonising as shills and controlled opposition? And no, they're not. It's absurd. Nathan Thompson's a good guy, as is Whitsitt Gets It. And I'm sure Bob Nodell is a good guy, regardless of his views on downward vectors. That's debate. Let's keep it what it is. Let's not turn this into something it isn't. Some dissension into madness in our own side simply because two people have disagreements about what is partially a very carefully constructed piece of programming that we're all subjected to, and we're all guilty of having fallen victim to at some stage in our lives. So yeah, just lay off a bit. These people don't need that kind of grief from their own side. I know, I've been there. And at the moment, it's me getting praised and them getting put down as shills, and I don't like it. You know? If anyone's a shill here, it's me. I'm only joking.
Oh my God! Christmas reveal.
It's a sticking to the topic is the best. I'm reading a fantastic book at the moment on anti-gravity. I just can't put it down.
That's brilliant.
Well said, adamantium.
Right, got one last housekeeping question. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon for all those fundamentalist religious zealots previously referred to who think the sky is a vacuum? That would be a space for gas to fill in line with entropy. What do you know? They call that space, don't they? How ironic. Any evidence that we can have a sky vacuum?
Yes, gravity. But we don't know what it is, so next question.
It's not a force. We know what it's not.
Idiot.
Yeah, it's still a gradient within the available space of the container.
Indeed.
So.
Well, the best one is, well, how'd you get the gas pressure in the first place?
Yeah, that'll be met with a lot of obfuscation and doublespeak. Bundy muting, potentially.
That was good. That was good housekeeping for today.
It's obvious everyone's on their day off today. Not only very little opposition coming from Discord, very few people from the globe side even in there.
Well, they've lost their molten iron core. They've lost their R. Gravity is what you want it to be. It's not anything real. So if you want to think it this, it's that. If you don't want to think it this, it's that. The Earth-based Coriolis doesn't exist, so they need a day off.
Maybe they're all quiet because today they have to face their family again with everything that's happened, and they're just like nervous, like, oh God, as long as they don't start asking questions about flat Earth, something. So maybe they're all just really nervous and just preparing.
That's a
for
good talking point,
potential
Arwin.
confrontation where they're going to be presented with facts and mistrust.
That's a good talking point. So, of the people specifically on the Google panel, are any of you in the slightest bit concerned about this subject coming up over the dinner table or over Christmas with family?
I'm certain that it will not be brought up at any of my gatherings. They're too afraid to talk about it at any time.
Well, my dad even asks me questions sometimes about mechanics or about the he asked me questions about the holographic nature of the celestial bodies and all that. It's like, whoa, okay, somebody's getting it. So yeah, we might bring it up. He's probably going to ask me, or even my stepmother, like, yeah, how is your YouTube channel doing? And I'll explain some about it. So I will have no problem discussing it.
Neil or Adam?
I don't think my days of my family know my mum, and they might ask me because if something pops up, my dad will often come up with, I've been reading something in the Bible, it says it this or something like that, you know what I mean? So they'll probably bring it to me. I don't take it to the family now. They know I've bored them all. Senseless talk the iron legs off them as I was going through it, you know what I mean? Because as you start on this journey, you've got no one to talk to. You tend to talk at people, and family can't run away. So, do you know what I mean? So, but no, I think I'm probably more likely to get questions or stuff on bloody immunisation and things like that. Do you know what I mean? More pharmacy work-related stuff with the current environment, which I will avoid like the bloody plague.
It's like asking you to do work
Do you know
after
what I mean?
hours, basically, isn't it?
Hmm?
It's like asking you to do work after hours. It's like asking a mechanic about cars. Oh, I've got this problem. When I start my engine, right, I get this funny vibration. And you're like, I'm not at work. I don't want to know about you, like you with chemicals and medicine, right?
Yeah. But Mum's coming round, so there'll be a good couple of hours talking about her ailments. But that's family at Christmas. So,
That would be true regardless of your work in pharmacy.
She'll run me through all her medicines. But no, I mean, for me, Nathan, it's I don't avoid it. I never have. But I don't, like I say, when you've been, I think everybody knows. I think people who know us, for all of us, they know we're flat earthers. So for me now, I don't tend to push it, but I do. You get the odd question. My sister will ask the odd time. I've been reading this, and brother-in-law will scoff. Do you know what I mean? Because he still believes they went to the moon. I can't believe it. It's like, mate, serious. But it might descend once the tipples have begun. You never know.
Where I'm, unless you've got, it's disappeared. Unless you've got anything, anybody else got anything to add in terms of their reaction to Christmas Day generally with Flat Earth? I want to give people some tips. That's where I'm leading to. So, any advice that we can give people in the audience in terms of how to not let that subject or the subject of Flat Earth / Globe Earth descend into a row over Christmas? Any tips we can give our audience?
Yeah.
Rumpus it into another subject. That's the only way I can imagine that, because once it's brought up, it's just going to ruffle feathers no matter what. So, and I think even like non-flat earthers that don't like to talk about it even do that. They just quickly rumpus over the subject and start up another subject. Like, oh, let's talk about this. That's the only way I know. Anyway.
Yeah, don't push the rope is my advice. If they grab it and they're pulling in, fine, because they're interested, but don't push the rope.
Yeah, like Mark Sargent says, we don't talk about Flat Club. Well, it's the same thing, don't push a rope. In other words, if somebody's bringing it up to you, then by all means, right, they're fair game and they want to discuss it. But that's kind of where I'm erring on the side of we need to give maybe a few tips or hints on how to diffuse it so it doesn't turn into a row when that happens. That's kind of what I mean. So someone's brought it up at the dinner table because they know you're a flat earther. What's the next step? What do you do? Do you immediately launch into how they're a fundy? Do you rumpus them into a different subject?
Well, if you put it in that context, then I would say, are you asking because you sincerely want to know, or are you just having a little laugh at me?
Okay,
that's a self-defeating question, because if they were not genuine, they're not going to tell you.
No, that's a good. No, to establish their motivation, that's a good first step. Well done, 10th man. That's sound advice. So establish if it's being done so that they can poke fun of you at the dinner table, in which case it's going to be awkward and it's going to ruin your Christmas. No one wants that. Or if they want a genuine discussion about it, that's a good first step. I agree. So establish their motivation. If it's just to poke fun at you, say, yeah, I'm not in the mood, and then bring up something embarrassing from their past just to diffuse it.
Yeah, but I am in the mood when they poke fun at me. that's I love it though.
Yeah, but we want harmonious Christmas, right? We don't want people coming away from what is this year, one of the very limited times we actually get to spend with our family. And personally, I don't take this the wrong way if you're a flat earther, they're more important to me. In other words, I want to keep my family happy. A lot of what has happened with lockdowns and such is just stopping various family members from becoming stressed about the situation. So it's diffusing that. And you think, well, do I care that we don't necessarily or may not share the same views on this topic? Who cares? It's Christmas. Try and keep them as stress-free as possible. And in this case, we know damn well that this subject will often rattle people's cages, and you just don't want that on Christmas, right? So if their motivation is to poke fun, I think that's the point where you should say, well, nobody wants fun poking out of them on Christmas. Hopefully the person's not a dick and they'll let it go. On the other hand, if they want a reasonable discussion, what's the next step?
Well, my advice would be, if I may, see if you can at least ensure that such a discussion is not going to be relatively loud. Because if they, it depends on the intention. Like, they might want to subconsciously shame you by literally making it the main subject that everybody will be listening to. Now, if somebody's just curious, like, hey, flat Earth, yeah, do you know anything about it? Then they might just really be curious, and then I'd kind of like not made it a loud conversation, maybe take them separate to explain certain things so that you don't ruffle other people's feathers. that might not be as appreciative. But if
Okay,
they're
perfect.
already kind of like, hey, what about
that's
that
perfect,
flat
perfect.
Earth?
Before
Kind of
we
loudly, then you know
before we
that
lose the
they'll
point,
probably make it a public
okay,
discussion.
thank you, Arwin. Before we lose the point, trying to keep it concise. So yeah, in other words, lay down some ground rules. If it's going to get emotional or loud or aggressive, then I think we should stop at that point and just lay down the ground rules. So step 1, what's your motivation? Do you just want to poke fun at me? Step 2, what are the ground rules now? If we're going to start shouting at each other, I think we should stop the conversation. Are we all in agreement? Yeah, we're all in agreement. Right, how do you have gas pressure without it? No. What's the next step? Step 3, lay down ground rules after establishing motivation. What else? Any more?
Yeah, I'd avoid describing anything. I think that's the easiest thing, is for you to slip into a Christmas tirade and to just divulge. I'd leave it as, if they want questions, just put it to them. Well, why? It's kind of like what in Discord. What are the reasons you believe it's a ball? Is put the onus on them. That way you're not arguing. Yeah. If all you're going to do is go blah 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 like that, you give them something to throw a little bit of the science they think's true. Yeah, and that's where the argument will begin. If it was me, I'd just say, well, you tell me, do you believe in the moon landings, for example? And if they say yeah, right, I wouldn't be discussing anything past that point with them with regards to flat Earth. Yeah, there's certain points where you're going to have an argument if that's what they're coming for. Like I say, gathering intent's important, but I would, even if I was going to go into it, just stick to asking them to explain why they believe things, and then maybe talking around that, rather than probably what they want is what happens with a lot of people where they are stepping into this. They want you to paint a new paradigm. Fundamentally, so they can argue against it and stay where they are.
Excellent advice. So step 3, this is once you're into the actual discussion now, because you're definitely there, I would say. Avoid making spurious claims. You know, the burden of proof is on the person with the extraordinary claim in this instance, which is we're on a sphere and there's people hanging off it antipodal from where you are, and assumptions of antipodal travel when moving south, etc., etc. Well, that's the extraordinary claim. The burden of proof is on them. Understand that if you don't know, say I don't know, but ultimately don't go making loads of claims, because, you know, then the burden of proof is on you. And
if I could
go on.
If I could add to that,
Yeah, sure.
I was going to say the same thing Adam did, is ask question at that point. And so the question I would ask is, look, I will limit myself to 3 questions, and you are limited to 3. So what are 3 reasons why you think the Earth is a ball and a sphere and it's spinning, etc.? And then I'll give you 3 reasons why I think it's flat. So who should go first?
Perfect.
And then, of course, we got the top 3.
I was just about to end out with that. So exactly. So when you're actually in the argument, try and stick with the top 3. You know, there's only a certain finite amount of aspects to the heliocentric model which are worthy of completely annihilating and smashing into the middle of next week. In reverse order, top 3 is the Coriolis effect. There should be a 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath things that aren't attached. Now that would exhibit itself as drones whizzing away from you at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, and they don't. So if Earth was turning, we'd have a Coriolis effect. At number 2, down 1, is outer space. It's fake. You can't have the gas pressure we're all breathing, that's high pressure gas, without containment. If the sky was a vast space, an area for the gas we're breathing to fill, then fill it must. Gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of the volume it has to fill. If the sky was a vacuum, a space for the gas to fill, then it would fill it. Outer space is fake. Therefore, I'll add, I left a little pause intentionally, any claims that have come from outer space are automatically fake. That would be any pictures that are claimed to be of Earth as a sphere have come from Narnia, a place that doesn't exist. Space being fake. Last but by no means least, we've discussed it at the beginning of this live show, if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the Black Swan shows it way beyond the parameters of the geometric sphere, which is based on a radius of 3959. Therefore, the Earth has no geometric sphere-edge horizon to derive our values to move horizons with. The Earth is not a sphere. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Google and Discord panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the live stream audience for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video. Happy Christmas, one and all.
Because those are not my family.
No, I don't mean family. I mean the exercise itself.
Yeah, but I'm gonna treat my family very different from everybody else because I have a history with my family, and once that breaks in some way, it has a lot more impact on the long run. So I already predict that I'll probably have a few people that will never agree with it, and will get really hurt if I keep pushing flat Earth. That's why I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But since we're not saying, because Adam said, don't go there declaring, so you wouldn't be pushing it. You'd be asking questions if they were interested.
Right.
I would like the other thing I was going to say. I'd keep it a little bit like when you're on the streets talking to people, and if you go at somebody as a flat earther with that mission in mind, I think early on, you're never going to win. You're never going to win because they've got plenty to argue with, plenty of cogdice to deal with. I would stick with like a few topics and just be a globe denier. Okay, so just focus on that. Just the misproofs that we're quoted, and just say, let's just look at the proofs we're given and analyze those. I'm happy to do that with you. As for trying to prove it being anything to you, that's daft. If I can just demonstrate to you that the proofs that you think you believe in that show it's a ball are false, they don't hold true, they do not demonstrate it. Would you be happy with that? Is where I'd only be prepared to go. I think that if you get halfway in that and get somebody thinking, then you've done a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once that's taken down in their own mind, then they're open to what it might be.
Well, with me, it's probably a little bit more complicated because I'm like the youngest one in the family, and like what worries me is that I'm very proud of my knowledge and of what I've done as a theorist with flat Earth. Like, I'm really proud of this stuff, guys. Like, this is not just fun and games to me. And I have a lot of self-worth that I derive from being an expert in what I do. And if somebody in my family is basically going to talk down to me because they don't see that I make money, to say it in the most basic way, then it's going to be brought up as kind of what I do this and I'm good at it. If they would then just not recognize it, that would really be painful for me, because then, yeah, it's going to be very, like, I'm going to be proud of something that they completely disrespect. And the cultural break between would be very severe, up to the point where we could not even reach each other's feelings anymore.
Can I comment on that, Arwen?
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. Can I comment on it though,
very
from my
difficult.
perspective? Yeah. Can I comment on it from my perspective of what you said?
Sure.
Yeah, I think I take the tact that it's very painful for them versus it's painful for me. So I never take it personally if they want to mock my knowledge or whatever. I know the time I've spent reading and debating and being part of debates when I hear you guys. So I've grown in this arena. So when it's there with a family member or loved one, um, and they mock you or they shun you or they try to, like that one guy I told you about a couple months ago when I walked in. He says, "Hey, you're that flat Earth guy, right?" I took that as a compliment, and I said, "Yeah, yeah. When did we talk about it?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I remember." And he was moving to Arizona. He was just dropping by to see my friend, and he didn't want to talk about it because it's painful for him to talk about it. So I never take it as painful for me when they don't believe me.
Well, if I would be approached like, "Oh, you're the flat Earth guy," then you already got somebody that is willing to accept that flat Earthers are a thing and that are not a dying mental patient or terrorist or whatever, Because there's people out there that really don't even want to realize that something like that could be real. That's kind of what I'm afraid of. If my family would just address me like, "Oh, yeah, we know you're into flat Earth. We don't like it." That would be like, "Oh my God, what a relief. They're actually willing to accept that it is a thing." Oh my God,
But they can't because it's too painful for them to talk that way.
Right. Well, that pain would then start to rub off on me because I'm empathic and I grew up with them, So, but yeah, I
Elijah,
don't know.
what do you
It's
say,
never going to
Elijah?
happen anyway, like that. I'm just with my dad, and that's pretty much it. And it's
Elijah,
good.
what do you got to say? All righty then.
Are you here? You there,
Well,
Elijah? Must have stepped away.
Yeah. Yeah, your self-worth, Arwen, has to be not derived by others. Your self-worth has to be accepted because you are created by God and you are important to God, and that's where your self-worth comes from. And
Thank you.
if people want to mock you or do that, I mean, we've all gone through it. They've done that to me all my life. It's like, okay, go ahead. I mean, I feel so confident that I'm not going to be judged by you because, first of all, I'm a human being. I'm here. There's a reason I'm here, and the Creator put me here. That's good enough for me to have a majority of good feelings about what I am and who I am. Now, I don't know the future. I don't know what life's lessons I still got to learn, but I'm not going to let someone put me down.
That's very nice. But yeah, of course I do that too. I literally don't give a shit about anyone, their opinion about me, or I wouldn't even survive any of this at this point. But yeah, when you're talking about family, as in the ones that I was in between as a very little fragile kid and all that, that's not the same thing. You might not have like older family left that you were a little kid with and vulnerable. I do. So it's not the same thing. This is not about the rest of humanity. It's about these very specific people. It's not the same.
Well, I think
Even though I mentally know that nobody can judge me, it will still rub off on me. It will still hurt me as an echo from the past if it were to happen.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying the family tie, the people that mean the most to you when this happens. I'm not denying that or the effects of it. And the way someone grows up does, in a sense, shape them and their uh, thoughts. But as we grow and we understand, we should not take it too seriously because they're the ones with the problem when they do it. And I have empathy for people who judge people that way because they probably had a hard time, and this is why they are the way they are.
Yeah. Well, with me, it also has, yeah, I'm getting very specific and I don't want to bring it up. But if you've grown up with basically looking up to somebody specifically for teaching and for telling you what's what, and then later it turns out that they are basically wrong about certain things and you've outgrown them, it's very tough. You see? Because I've been conditioned to look up to them.
Oh, I've had a lot of those situations with family members, parents, and it's like the younger generation just passed the knowledge from the older one at a certain point in life, and the older one thinks they still got it over the younger one, but they don't realize that each generation needs to get better and smarter, and to hand off that baton and say, wow, you turned out good, you're a lot smarter at your age than I was. Instead of going there, ego gets in the way, I suppose.
Right, but in this case, it's even. I have to be the most complicated here. You can't outdo me with that shit. But in this case, it's even that that specific individual that I looked up to basically unveiled my naivety towards the world for the first period of my life. Basically, showed me like, no, things aren't really as they are. Like he started that, you know. And then to eventually come to this point where the roles are reversed, it's very strenuous. Anyway,
I find it just the way life is.
I guess it's
I just don't. I personally don't put too much attention at it because it's everywhere. I got people saying, "Oh, I'm having problems in my marriage. I got problems in my home life. I got problems at work." Okay, well, welcome to to the plain Earth. I almost said planet.
Ooh, you revealed yourself there.
Yeah, it's just called hearing that word all your life.
Yeah.
But I caught myself.
You're a secret baller.
Yeah, but I caught myself.
Everybody, I want to wish you all happy Christmas because I'm going to have to do one in a sec. I've got to.
Adam, thank you for that. I wish you and your family the best Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Enjoy your family, your grandkids, everybody.
Oh, I'm looking forward. I'm going to have a couple of drinks, a couple of shandies as well. I'm a chemist, so I was worried about people, having too much to drink. So I did look it up, but it's all right, boys. I checked in the chemistry book, and alcohol is a solution.
Very good.
I thought it was a solvent.
Oh, God, don't ruin the joke.
Bye.
Have a lovely Christmas, Adam.
Happy Christmas. And I'll see
happy
you on the other
Christmas.
side.
Merry Christmas, Adam.
Well, with the chemist using a vial, can I do a vial joke on that one?
You nearly did.
Yeah, well, the Bible instructs us to drink and be merry. So,
Well, better drink and be merry, don't they?
yeah, drink and be merry, rejoice.
Well, you love that. You love that scripture, huh, 10th man?
Well, I love it because everything.
Yeah.
Everything is there for appropriation, and the right amount of everything is fine. I can't eat steaks all day, can I?
Forget about the other million that say wine is a mocker and strong drink is raging, and all those other ones.
No, I don't forget. I don't forget
to that
No,
one.
it's specific. It specifically says drink and be merry, so it doesn't say drink and then whatever.
Yeah,
if you're
it's
not married,
saying-
then you shouldn't drink.
Yeah, but
It's a good point.
Yeah, very good. No, the other scriptures are saying about abusing it. Don't abuse it because it is alcohol.
But I generally take it as such, or when I used to drink, it's like, okay, if I'm going to drink, it's going to be a happy moment. It must be. Because if I don't focus on that, then like bad alcohol situations might slip in. And
I just don't like the taste.
You're Italian. You don't like wine?
Yeah, wine I like, but I don't like to taste alcohol or beer.
What do you think wine is?
Yeah, but it's not like listen. When I
Stop whining.
when I drank, it took me where I wanted to go. That was then. So if I have no desire to, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't drink to get drunk, so I'm not falling into that state of when I drank, it took me where he didn't want me to go.
I don't drink either. So every year I get the same conversation with my folks. They ask me what beer I want, and I'm like, I don't want any. I really do want cherry Coke, and that's what I drink. And every year it'll be the same conversation about, do you want Diet Pepsi Max Cherry? No, I don't know. Well, we couldn't get cherry Coke, so it's regular Coke. It's like, oh, that's fine.
So do you like Dr. Pepper as well, Nathan?
Not really.
I do too. I like cherry Coke and Dr. Pepper. To me, they're.
I'll make do with Dr. Pepper.
I like Cactus Cooler.
Okay. My point is that I'm not into alcohol either. So it's just one of those things, and some people just aren't into alcohol.
Yeah, Cactus Cooler is a soft drink, by the way.
Cactus Cooler, never heard of it.
Yeah, look it up. It's rare. It's hard to find, actually. Remember, as a kid having it, think, oh wow, this is different than Coke and Pepsi, and enjoyed it as a child, and then just can't find this stuff anymore.
I don't drink soft drinks anymore. They make you soft.
Well, down south they call everything Coke. If
Yeah.
you want a cherry Coke, they call everything Coke,
Fair enough.
even if it's orange soda.
I'll have an orange Coke. It's like their word for pop.
Right.
Okay.
When my father had a candy store, I used to make all the different sodas. Egg cream. Ever heard of an egg cream, Nathan?
Vaguely rings a bell.
All it is it's chocolate syrup, a little bit of milk, and then seltzer. As you
Okay.
go, you twirl it, and it's like a chocolate soda.
Cool.
But he had all the flavors.
Chocolate soda. Wow.
It was called Gloria's Sweet Shop, named after my mother.
Ew.
I'm getting sick just thinking about chocolate soda.
Look up egg cream. Google it. You'll see. It's good, man. It's good.
Well, if I'm getting sick hearing about it, why would I Google it and look at it?
Good. It's a New York. It's a Brooklyn thing.
That explains it.
Them English fellows started it way back in the day.
That sounds about as appealing as chicken boiled in Coca-Cola or something. There's people doing that. Really?
No.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Next thing you know, they'll be frying them in dustbins. Who would have thought of such a thing?
What's
Well,
that?
I never.
I missed what you said, Nathan.
The next thing you know, they'll be frying them up in dustbins, trash cans.
Oh. Yeah, I've been known to do that.
Listen, I never heard of chicken and waffles. It sounded so weird to me until I ate it. I was like, oh, this is what it's all about.
Fair enough. Right, I've scheduled all the shows for Christmas. Well, the show for Christmas, I should say. It just repeats on the second channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is
Well,
as I suspected.
It's a
So
quiet. It's a quiet day.
yeah, it was a quiet day today, but that's fairly be expected Christmas Eve. Yeah, the Wits It Gets It, Nathan Thompson and Rumpus show is the one that goes out tomorrow, i.e. Christmas Day. If you're listening after the fact,
Gotcha.
that was the show that went out on Christmas.
I'll have to watch that back carefully.
Oh, I will have to watch that.
I was there, but I barely remember it.
Well, it's a long
I
show.
didn't even know it was Wits It Gets It in Nathan Thompson, I think.
Well over 3
Yeah,
hours, so
yeah.
it's quite a long show. But as I say, I've scheduled it to play and then repeat on the second channel later on in the evening. Done.
So you're back live on Monday then.
Yes, indeed. Hopefully without any issues.
Anyway,
with
I've
this
got to
stupid
go.
computer.
So happy Christmas, all.
You too, Neil. Merry Christmas. God bless you and your family.
Yeah, happy Christmas.
Same to y'all.
Merry
Yes,
Christmas.
Nathan. Same to you guys. Bye. Arwen, have a good one.
Thank
And
you.
remember, Arwen, you are ace.
All right.
That's an exceptionally good note to round out on. So yes, indeed, Arwen is ace. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and Google panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.